The sun always rose over the wide, flat lands where the Apache people lived, painting the sky with bright colors each morning. Among them was a woman named Willow. She was not like the others in one very big way. Willow was very, very tall. So tall, in fact, that her head almost touched the highest branches of the cottonwood trees when she stood up straight. Her hands were big and strong, easily able to carry heavy baskets of berries or big piles of firewood that would take two smaller men to lift. When she stood next to other women in her tribe, they only came up to her waist. She was truly a giant among her people, taller than any man, taller than any warrior. Even though Willow was so big, her heart was even bigger and full of warmth. She had a kind smile that made children feel safe, and her laughter was like a soft, gentle river. She was also very brave, never showing fear. If a small deer was caught in a thorny bush, Willow would carefully free it with her strong but gentle fingers. If a child wandered too far into the desert, she would be the first to go look, not afraid of wild animals or the dark night. She loved her people and her land deeply. Her great size made her stand out, but her good nature and courage made her truly special. Even with Willow's big heart and brave spirit, her towering height sometimes made her people feel uneasy. The elders of the tribe, who were wise in many ways, looked at Willow and saw not just a kind woman, but also something they didn't understand. They worried that her great size was a sign, perhaps of something powerful and strange that might bring trouble to their peaceful village. Whispers started to spread like dry leaves in the wind. People would look at her with wide eyes, not always seeing the gentle smile, but the shadow her tall body cast. One sad day, the tribal council gathered. Their faces were serious and their voices low. They talked for a long time about Willow. They remembered her kindness, but their fear of what was different was stronger. They decided that Willow was too unlike everyone else. It was a hard choice, but they believed it was for the good of the tribe. With heavy hearts, they told Willow she must leave. They said she was exiled, which meant she had to go away and could not come back. Willow felt a deep ache in her chest, like a stone had been placed there. She loved her people, and it hurt her deeply that they could not see past her size to her true self. With a last, sad look at her home, she turned and walked away, her tall figure growing smaller and smaller in the distance. With her home disappearing behind her, Willow stepped out into the vast, open land. Each stride of her long legs took her further away from everything she had ever known. The sun beat down fiercely, and the wind whispered through the tall grasses, carrying no friendly voices, only the sound of her own lonely footsteps. Her heart felt heavy, a deep ache sitting right in the middle of her chest. How could her own people, whom she had loved and protected, send her away? Tears, big and quiet, rolled down her cheeks, mixing with the dust that settled on her face. Days turned into a blur of walking. The wide open spaces stretched out forever, under skies that changed from bright blue to fiery orange at sunset, then to a blanket of stars at night. Willow saw no one, only the distant hills and the endless horizon. She felt the gnawing emptiness in her stomach grow stronger with each passing hour. Berries were scarce, and small animals darted away too quickly for her to catch. Her strong body, usually full of energy, began to slow. Her feet ached with every step, and her shoulders slumped with weariness. The sadness of being alone mixed with the growing tiredness and the sharp pangs of hunger, making each day harder than the last. She just kept walking, one foot in front of the other, with nowhere to go. As the sun began to dip below the distant mountains, painting the sky in soft shades of purple and orange, Willow felt her legs finally give out. Each step had become a painful drag, and her vision was starting to blur from hunger and thirst. The strong, brave woman who could carry heavy loads and walk for endless miles was now just a shadow of herself. Her big body felt heavy, like a great tree ready to fall. She looked around, but there was no shelter, no safe place to hide from the cold night that was quickly coming. With a deep sigh, Willow sank to the ground. The earth felt hard and cold beneath her, but she was too tired to care. Her eyelids fluttered, heavy as stones, and the last thing she saw was the first few stars beginning to twinkle in the darkening sky. The vast, endless sky above her seemed to stretch on forever, filled with tiny lights. She closed her eyes, not meaning to sleep, but her body had no more strength left. Exhaustion pulled her down, into a deep, dreamless sleep. She lay there, a giant figure still and small against the huge landscape, completely worn out and truly needing someone to find her. The wild, open land held her in its silent embrace as the night grew deeper. As Willow lay still under the vast, silent sky, a small figure on horseback appeared on the horizon. It was Jed, a cowboy who knew the open lands like the back of his hand. He was riding slowly, his horse picking its way through the growing darkness, heading back to his small camp after a long day of work. Jed was a quiet man, but he had a good heart and eyes that noticed everything. He often traveled alone, but he was never truly alone, always watching the world around him. Suddenly, his horse gave a soft snort and slowed its pace. Jed looked ahead, squinting in the dim light. There, stretched out on the ground, was a shape much larger than any person he had ever seen. At first, he thought it might be a fallen tree or a strange rock formation. But as he rode closer, his kind eyes saw it was a human form, a very tall woman, lying still and unmoving. Her dark hair was spread around her, and her clothes were dusty and torn. Jed could see at once that she was in trouble. No one would choose to sleep out in the open like that, especially not a woman, unless they had no other choice and were in great need. His heart went out to her. He knew he had to help. Jed quickly hopped off his horse, his boots making soft thuds on the dusty ground. He walked slowly toward the sleeping woman, his kind face showing worry. He knelt down beside her, carefully checking to see if she was hurt. Her breathing was shallow, and her skin felt cool. He knew she needed help right away. From his saddlebag, he pulled out his water skin. Gently, he lifted her head a little and poured a small amount of cool water onto her lips. She stirred softly, and a little of the water went down. He did this a few times, hoping to bring her some relief. Next, Jed took off his own warm woolen blanket, which he always carried for cold nights. It was a big, thick blanket, but Willow was so tall that it barely covered her from her shoulders to her knees. Still, it was better than nothing. He carefully tucked it around her, trying to keep her warm as the desert night grew colder. After making sure she was as comfortable as possible, Jed gathered dry sticks and brush. With a few sparks from his flint, a small, cheerful fire soon crackled to life nearby. The flames danced, chasing away the shadows and sending warmth into the chilly air. Jed sat quietly by the fire, watching over Willow, making sure no harm came to her through the long, dark night. He was her guardian in the vast, silent wilderness. The first light of dawn brought a gentle warmth to the desert air. Willow slowly opened her eyes. At first, she felt confused, not knowing where she was. The soft glow of a small fire flickered nearby, and the smell of wood smoke filled the air. She felt a warm blanket tucked around her, and her throat, though still dry, felt much better than it had. Then she saw him, a man sitting quietly by the fire, watching her. He had kind eyes and a friendly, gentle look on his face. This was not one of her people. Willow sat up slowly, feeling a little weak but much more rested. The man, Jed, stood up too, offering her a small cup of water from a tin. He spoke words she didn't understand, but his smile was clear and welcoming. Willow took the water, nodding her thanks. She tried to speak in her own Apache tongue, but Jed shook his head gently, letting her know he didn't understand. They both realized they spoke different languages. But that didn't stop them. Jed pointed to himself and said, "Jed." Willow pointed to herself and said, "Willow." Then, with simple hand signs, they began to talk. Jed showed her how he found her, how tired she was. Willow showed him she was alone and had nowhere to go. Smiles and kind eyes made their understanding grow, building a bridge between their different worlds. The sun climbed higher, warming the vast land. Jed offered Willow some dried meat and berries he had in his bag, and she ate slowly, feeling her strength return. They spent the whole day together. With many hand gestures and pointing, Jed showed Willow his horse, named Dusty, and explained how he used a lasso to catch cattle. Willow, in turn, showed him how to find edible roots in the dry earth and pointed out different animal tracks, explaining their meaning with soft sounds and movements. She even showed him how strong she was by easily lifting a heavy fallen branch that Jed struggled with. They couldn't speak in long sentences, but they learned so much about each other just by watching and doing. Jed saw that Willow was not just tall, but also wise and gentle. Willow saw that Jed was not just a cowboy, but also kind and clever. They laughed when they misunderstood each other, and they smiled often. The vast, empty land around them no longer felt so lonely. As evening came again, and Jed built another small fire, they sat in comfortable silence. A warm feeling, like the glow of the fire, grew between them. It was a special feeling, a quiet understanding that said, "I like you, and I trust you." A true friendship, strong and deep, was beginning to bloom in the heart of the wilderness. The days stretched into weeks, and Jed and Willow were never far from each other. The quiet understanding they shared grew stronger with every sunrise. Jed saw how alone Willow was, and the thought of her going back out into the wide, empty land by herself made his kind heart ache. Willow, in turn, found a peace with Jed she hadn't known since leaving her tribe. She knew she had found a safe place, not just from the elements, but also from loneliness. One sunny afternoon, as they sat by a gentle stream, Jed looked at Willow. He made a motion, pointing to the land around them, then to her, then to himself, and finally, made a sign like building a house. Willow's eyes lit up with understanding. He was asking her to stay, to build a home with him. A happy smile spread across her face, and she nodded quickly. They would stay together. They began to search for the perfect spot. After days of looking, they found it, a small, green valley, hidden between rolling hills, with a clear stream bubbling through it and plenty of trees. It was a peaceful place, safe and full of life. With Jed's cowboy knowledge and Willow's great strength, they worked side by side. Jed cut logs, and Willow, with her strong arms, lifted them into place. They built a sturdy, small house, cozy and warm. It wasn't fancy, but it was their own, a happy home in their peaceful valley, built with hands and hearts that now belonged together. In their cozy home nestled in the peaceful valley, the friendship between Jed and Willow blossomed into something even more beautiful. They had built a home, and now, their hearts had built a love that was as strong and true as the mountains around them. It was a love that didn't need many words, a deep understanding that came from shared smiles, helping hands, and quiet moments under the endless sky. They knew they were meant to be together, two different people from different worlds, brought together by kindness and the wide open land. Soon, their little home filled with even more love and laughter. Willow and Jed welcomed children into their lives. First came a strong boy with Jed's steady eyes and Willow's kind smile. Then came a clever girl, quick as a hummingbird and brave as her mother. Their children were special, growing up with stories from both sides of their family. From Willow, they learned about the old Apache ways, how to listen to the wind, understand the language of the animals, and respect every living thing. From Jed, they learned the cowboy life, how to ride a horse like the wind, mend a fence, and sing a happy tune while watching the stars. They learned to be strong and gentle, just like their parents. Their home was a place where two different worlds met and became one, making their family unique and full of love. In their small, warm home, surrounded by the loving sounds of their children, Jed and Willow built a life filled with joy. The years passed like the gentle flow of the stream outside their door. They taught their children everything they knew, from planting seeds in the rich earth to understanding the stars that twinkled above their valley home. Their children grew up to be strong, kind, and smart, carrying the best parts of both their Apache mother and their cowboy father. Their family was a special blend, like two different colored threads woven together to make a beautiful blanket. Willow's quiet wisdom and Jed's steady strength made them wonderful parents. They showed everyone around them that it didn't matter where you came from, or how different you looked. What truly mattered was the love you held in your heart. They welcomed anyone who passed through their valley with a warm meal and a friendly smile, always remembering the kindness that brought them together. Their lives were a living story, a true picture that showed how love could build a bridge over any differences, bringing people together to create something truly wonderful and lasting. Their home was always full of laughter, stories, and the unbreakable bond of family. The story of Willow, the tall Apache woman, and Jed, the kind cowboy, became more than just their own lives lived in a quiet valley. Their home, filled with the laughter of their children and the wisdom of two different worlds, grew into a shining example for everyone. Travelers who passed through the vast lands would sometimes hear tales of the giant woman and the gentle cowboy who built a family together. They heard of a place where differences didn't matter, and where a warm welcome was always given. Their children, grown strong and wise, carried this message into the world. Willow and Jed lived many long, happy years, their days rich with simple joys and exciting adventures. They watched their children explore the valley, ride horses across the plains, and learn to respect both the ways of the land and the kindness of strangers. They faced challenges together, always stronger because they had each other. Their unique family, born from an act of kindness in a lonely desert, showed everyone that love truly has no boundaries. It proved that even when people seem very different, their hearts can connect and build something truly wonderful. Willow and Jed's lives were a beautiful song of love and understanding, a joyful adventure that left a lasting mark on the wild, open country, a true symbol of what happens when two kind hearts find each other.